Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much for tuning to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting from the Political Command Center and across the globe. Good morning, Miriam Ogutu in Nairobi. Good morning, all of you down in Nairobi, Kenya.
All right, good morning to you and good morning to our viewers.
Thank you very much. This show is Global Matsanga Global Trend, or Global Trend, where we look at aspects of the globe: security, economy, social news, insights, what's going on in different parts of the world. But above all, we emphasize the point of security. But before we do that, let's have Miriam doing the housekeeping process in Nairobi, bringing us up to date with the current news. But the topic of today is very interesting for any African watching this show this morning, saying, truly speaking, there is a regime change wave that is coming. The United States of America has placed as a priority the same people who actually created regime change in focus to control Africa. Therefore, look at Johnny Carson's. It is the same man who actually agitated for several changes in Africa. He's now back in the White House as an African contact group person. For me, on the continent of Africa, Miriam, I'll never fear to say it. Call me any names. Call me my mother's name, if you know it. But I am telling you, this Dr. Matsanga here, this guy you see, I'll say my truth. And let time judge me that the wave of regime change across the world, it has already started in Brazil. Where's the president of Brazil? The former president has run to United States of America, where America does not want Lula, and it wants Lula thrown out. So they are instigating a wave of regime change in Brasilia, in Rio de Janeiro, in the cities of Brazil. Regime change is coming. It is coming in anybody who has got a problem of democratic deficit must be prepared that they are going to come for him. I have no regrets for stating the facts, but with the way the placement of Johnny Carson as a contact person for Africa, voila, you better run to your holes, pigeon holes. Thank you across back in Africa. To Miriam Ogutu. Don't forget, good morning, that tomorrow we shall have a very good debate on the debt relief and the conflicts on Africa, brought to you by renowned sons of Africa. Professor David Hoyle is an African from Zimbabwe. I don't know, some people, when they see him on the platform, they think he's just a Mzungu from United Kingdom. No, he's born in Zimbabwe. He's an African. And Professor Pierre Lumumba, of course, you know him. We shall be discussing these things tomorrow. Today, we don't have that night of discussion about our space. Our space will provide it from London. everything, every detail that you want to know about the debt cancellation, debt relief. Isn't it time for Africa to ask for these things openly? Surely we are in chaos. They say stop it. Isn't it time for Africa to think of cutting some land and give it to Chinese to settle like we gave to Indians? What's wrong with that? Indians came digging the railway and today they are part of our tribes. Why can't we also give the Chinese who have come digging the railway a tribe in Africa, in Karamoja, for example? Are you thinking like me? We need the Chinese to come and stay with us in my country, in Uganda. There is a very big place, Karamoja, which they need to develop. Give them one district there or two districts to inhabit and cancel our debt. The Entebbe Expressway. Yes, we went for it. We have to have the money. We have to pay the money. Miriam says you either pay, you took it. Let's think about these ideas. Every day we have been running, crying, oh, Northeastern, there is no food in Northeastern, cows are dying, human beings are dying. Give the Chinese the land to develop. Why do you have a territory where people are dying, yet there are people looking for land where to grow food? They will put water. In fact, if you give Chinese the Northeastern, within 2 years or 3 years, there will be water coming, a river coming from there. I'm not wrong, Wanda. These are suggestions. Miriam, back to you, Nairobi. Let's get on the subject as soon as you finish your housekeeping process. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Here are the latest headlines from the leading newspapers in the country. Start with those from Kenya. The Star newspaper, bring back a BBI or forget changing law, Raila to Ruto. ODM boss says Kenya Kwanza introducing constitutional amendments illegally. The story is on page 6. Chiloba murder suspects to be arraigned today. You'll find that on page 3. And the main pictorial, Gachagua moots plan to crown Ruto as Mount Kenya kingpin. Very well. The Standard newspaper, Raila stars Azimio with Uhuru claims. Opposition leader Raila Odinga insists former President Uhuru Kenyatta has not left coalition, but the latter has remained silent, throwing allies in a spin. Has Kenyatta tactically dumped Odinga? That story is on page 4. Budget hard reality facing Kenya Kwanza. You'll find that on page 6. And Kenya shines in children protection. That is on page 14 and 15. Daily Nation, Ruto's power play. President Ruto has set out roles for his key men, putting each in charge of coordination with an arm of government. And that is between Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Musalia Mudavadi, and Justin Muturi. Protest over old trucks ban. That is also there. You'll find that on the back page. And big CBC test for schools. That is on page 2. We move on to other papers from the region. The Daily Monitor from Uganda. Government plans new budget. Cuts revive economy. And then the New Vision also from Uganda. Foreigners hack Ugandan banks. Billions stolen every week. 151 cases under probe. And then the main pictorial there is President Museveni and First Lady Janet grazing cows at Kisozi Farm. The Punch from Nigeria, soldiers, police, vigilantes track abductors, 31 passengers missing. And The Nation from Nigeria as well, Tinubu, I'll be fair to all tribes. Okay. The Daily News from Zimbabwe, catch 22 over Zimbabwe Electoral Commission poll report as authorities wrestle with what to do with it. The Herald from Zimbabwe, civil servants welcome new pay structure. And then the New Times from Rwanda, multi-million Italian hotel in Kobo to boost tourism. The Citizen from Tanzania, the task ahead for new BOT, that is Bank of Tanzania Governor. I guess that's the Central Bank of Tanzania. So that is what we have. And some of the regional newspapers. Doc, back to you. Okay, so perhaps we look at the papers from as we wait for Doc to join us. Let me see if I can get us the papers from the UK. We start with The Guardian. PM looks at one-off cash offer to end nurses' strike. That is what we have. The Daily Telegraph, William and Kate stereotyped Meghan, claims Prince Harry. And the Daily Express, Harry finally admits royal family is not racist. And then the Independent, Bolsonaro supporters storm Congress. I think they're following the same script like what happened with Trump. Sunak sparks optimism over talks on NHS pay. The Metro, not a spare in the world. Okay, and the Sun, we never called royals racists. And the Mirror, I didn't say the royal family was racist. And one rule for Rishi, that is the new prime minister. So that is what we have in some of the newspapers from the UK, the headlines, and those from Africa. So Wanda Wesonga, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Miriam, in Nairobi.
All right, so I guess we will, Doc, are you, can you start us off? All right, so I guess we'll just start. I'll just do the introduction and then Doc will come and start us on as we look at the global wave of regime change. So regime change is the partly forcible and coercive replacement of one government regime with another. Regime change may replace all or part of the state's most critical leadership, system, administrative apparatus, or bureaucracy. Regime change thus refers to the overthrow of a government considered illegitimate by an external force and its replacement with a new government according to the ideas or interests promoted by that force. And some examples that we've seen happen across the world. The US has been known to use this strategy to advance its interest, like it did in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya. And France has also been accused of sponsoring some regime change in Africa, following the cession to independence of its African colonies beginning in 1959. France continued to maintain a sphere of influence over the new countries, which was critical to the then President Charles de Gaulle's view of France as a global power and as a bulwark to British and American influences post-colonial period. And we have seen France continue to want to maintain that level of influence. And a lot of times when a leader comes in these countries that does not augur well with the sitting leadership in Paris, then we've seen France sort of supporting what will be considered regime changes in some of these countries. Africa states have in the recent years shown vulnerability to military takeovers and the forced removal of established leaders, but these developments in autocracies are not associated with revolutionary change. Like we saw a regime change that was advanced in the 80s by saying this Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara, his was to bring the kind of regime change he had in the coup that he led was to bring change for the people of Burkina Faso. But the recent kind of regime changes that we see in this continent have nothing to do with bringing change that will actually be meaningful to the people. And in 2021, coup d'etats ousted 4 heads of state in sub-Saharan Africa. Army interventions in Chad, Mali, Guinea, and Sudan halted a years-long decline in military takeovers in what was heralded the comeback of the army in African politics and elsewhere in Africa. Leaders say in countries like Egypt, Tunisia, and Tanzania, then under President Magufuli, and then Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, among others, were accused of enacting authoritarian turns that in response saw some other powers from outside the continent wanting to come in and have a regime change. And common authoritarian measures include suspending parliamentary assemblies, confining opposition leaders, extending term limits, and violently repressing opposition and dissent. Now, here lies the paradox. Despite decades in which democratic institutions have become prevalent across the continent of Africa, states continue to be vulnerable to military takeovers and autocratic forms of power. So perhaps the question that we could start asking as we start this conversation, I wonder, is Africa entering a phase of democratic backsliding that is now opening up the space for regime change?
Thank you so much, Miriam. In fact, from where I sit, Africa's democracy is not African. That Africa is not I mean, we don't have a system that we can call an African democratic space. When you look into the regime changes that we normally have, transition from one government or from one regime to the other regime, then how we normally conduct our elections, our politics, you'll realize that in most cases, or more times, we'll always have fingers pointing to the outside world. That will always, in one way or the other, having the opposition, in most cases, a team that probably was defeated, if I'm to use the word, not being okay with the results. And in most cases, they will not just point from within, they will not point forces from within as the ones that have probably affected the elections in the favor of a certain quarter. But in most cases, we keep as well, we keep on pointing fingers to both internal and the outside world. When you look into, for instance, the elections that happens either in Kenya, cut across, not just Kenya, we will always have the Western world telling us they sponsored the elections. We sponsored the electoral commissions, meaning they have an interest in what is happening. Therefore, you look at everything, you look at the regimes, you look at cut across. We don't have a democracy that we'll call it an African democracy, but we tend to serve the interest in one or the other, half of it or a percentage of it being the outside world. It's the same case that we talk about the AU, then we say, for as long as AU is not able to sponsor ourselves, to fund our own budgets, then it will always serve the interest not of Africans entirely, but the interest of those that are funding it. The same thing will now get to our electoral commissions, that for as long as our electoral commissions are being funded or they're having some money coming from the outside, then the outside will have an impact or a say in it. The regimes that are coming in will always, in one way or the other, tend to lean on the side that favored them. Therefore, yes, the regime change are there, the regime changes in Africa are there, and they are not starting today. They have always been there in the sense that democracy is not a thing of Africa, and the sponsors of the democracy in Africa, elections in Africa, are people from outside, and based on history, they have sponsored an end that they can manipulate at the end of the day. Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. And just listening to you, I think you've been able to highlight the two factors that really play into regime change, and much of it external factors, but also internal factors. And I'd like for us to just look at some of the internal regime changes that we've seen happening here in the continent outside of the influence from other quarters, other players. Okay, all right. So say a country we've seen. A country like Guinea, for instance, President Alpha Conde, who was ousted, decided after serving his 2 terms, decided to carry out a constitutional coup so that he could serve a 3rd and illegal term. So in this regard, would you not say that out of political survival that we've seen a lot of our leaders experience with, or sort of, in this continent, there are others who just don't want to leave power, and so they want to continue staying. So out of their political survival, they'll continue mutilating the norms and factors and constitution and all this, so that they stay in power, and to some instances, these forces sort of what you would term an internal regime change. I see, Doc, I see you. Are you present now? Are you able to talk?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Miriam and Alvis Wanda. That the regime change, the wave is real. You like it, you hate Matsanga, it is real. It's coming. You see, one of the problems that African governments make, any African president open up your ears and listen to me. You took yourselves on a slaughter table, altar, to be slaughtered. Wanda has already told you that you borrow money for elections from their own countries. Therefore, they will supervise your elections. Why should you have people calling themselves partners in your election? Think about it. Across Africa, European Union partners. Partnering in what? Developing what? We are just 65 years old from the time of independence, isn't it? The first country got independence, Ghana. So what are you trying to teach us? The people coming to teach us are 1,900 years old, 256 years old. American independence, they started democracy. The European countries, they fought wars, they killed people. Most of the Europe is full of dead bodies. It's made on dead bodies. We are building buildings on dead bodies. The wars that took place there, we buried those people. Now we make a mistake and deliver ourselves to the slaughter table. Then when mistakes occur, then you start saying you condemn the West. Why do you condemn them when you go there to borrow their money? Recently, African heads of state took themselves to Washington, D.C. Medium, as soon as they left, they picked Johnny Carson's. Mr. Johnny Carson's and George Soros work hand in hand. He was your ambassador. He was an ambassador in your country sometime. And you saw the way he ran with Moi. And you saw he was in Zimbabwe. You saw the way he put sanctions on Zimbabwe. Johnny Carson's. You see in Uganda, he was in Uganda. You saw how they had trouble with the government of Uganda. So when you African leaders fly into New York or Washington and then put themselves on the slaughter table, see what is going on in Brazil. Brazil, see what is taking place in Brazil today. The capital city, people are coming to break into government office. There is no law, rule of law. Brazil used to change governments without any opposition. But the wave of regime change has arrived in Brazil. It has caused the problem, and here we are. We have a problem here. So when you look at all those aspects, you look at the aspects of double standards yourselves. You double standard yourselves. You bring a lot of chaos yourselves. As Africans, African leaders go there to say we want money, but they don't know who is going to supervise them on money. When Mr. Johnny Carson arrives in Kenya, he's going to meet the civil society. He's going to meet Mr. Mwangi, Boniface Mwangi. He will be in a meeting with Boniface Mwangi. And after discussing with Boniface Mwangi, he goes to meet the leaders of opposition. Now they give him all what is wrong with what Africa is going on. When he comes to Uganda, the same. They look for NGOs that are theirs. They meet NGOs that don't work for the interest of a nation, but work for the interest of the NGOs, of the green dollar, green paper. After then they come to table, they meet the government. They have collected views at the government. The opposition in Africa will say, no, the money was taken. Don't give them money. If you give them money, they are stealing the money. There's corruption there. There are dead. You are creating a problem, a standoff that can bring a vacuum, that can create a regime change. A wave of regime change is sweeping across the entire globe. And then the global trends, the Matsanga global trends. This is what we look at. What type of insecurity is going to be caused. Like, for example, in Brazil, there's a president already sworn in. Now another president who has fled to US is fighting for his return. He says the elections were rigged and the army sided with Lula. They gave Lula the power, short of them taking over power. We see the chaos between Botswana and South Africa and Khama and Masisi. President Masisi has issued a warrant of arrest for his predecessor. The man he succeeded, the man who gave him power, the man who surrendered each and everything to him and said, you are a member of my party, take over the presidency. Here we are, we have a warrant of arrest, exchanging heirs and so on. Go a regime change, look at Angola. What is going on in Angola is not pleasant at all. UNITA movement seems to be coming back slowly, gaining more seats, more than Frelimo. And then when you go to arrest the daughter, the daughter of the late President Santos, you are fueling a situation where people are going to see what's going on. Look at Congo Brazzaville. Mr. Nguema, Mr. Ngweso is trying to bring his son to succeed him. What are people thinking about this? We created a democracy, but we did not create kingdoms. Look at the upheaval in the royal household in my country, or in London, in the UK. The type of words that are coming out from here are not very pleasant at all. Everything that the royal had kept quiet about is being revealed by the tabloids. And what do you think of that? It's a wave. People will come to the streets. People will pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They start saying, hello, we have been having enough and we have been keeping quiet. Now, if this younger man is telling us all these things, how much again does he know? So when you look at elements of regime change, you see, look at that. You create a very good fund, then you bring Johnny Carson's. I'm not a man who fears controversy. If any of you in Africa has got any evidence that Matsanga is lying on Johnny Carson's, bring it out. But I'm telling you the truth. I found Johnny Carson's myself during the Kenyan elections, Miriam. I found him in Kempiski. They were with Chisano. They came as observers here for your elections. And I asked Johnny Carson, you have come to election, to observe elections in a country that you want to be dismembered. You have been observing elections in countries that you first want to dismember. Why do you come for this election, sir? Oh, Dr. Matsanga, you never give up this and I say, yes, okay. But I fight for Africa. So the biggest impediment that Miriam you see on the fund from the US is very, very interesting. That on that same fund from US, it will not take off. It will take off under the helm of this man. So if you are, how is he going to release you money? How is he going to release you money? He's the prefect for Africa. He works with Mr. George Soros. Go to his website of NDC. It will tell you that NDC is funded by Mr. George Soros. They are there for regime change. Look at the map of Africa. Go back and see the map of Africa. And see how many countries in Africa where we have outposts. How many? We have very many countries where the US has concentrated its troops. West Africa, the entire region, America's light footprint in Africa. In the Horn of Africa, the whole of it, Kenya, Uganda, Djibouti, Tunisia, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, Cameroon. These are areas where the Americans have decided to pitch camp. And therefore, the USA military outposts in Africa are known as US AFRICOM. US has a military base in Africa under the pretense of combating terrorism. USA military bases in Africa are there to continue to find a foothold. If the regime change in Mali changed and the US was involved in Miriam, they would not have condemned the regime change. They would not have condemned the soldiers who took power. Now they are deploying a force against the Mali junta. They want him out. It is very, very interesting. Some of these things are very serious things that are causing Africa a very serious sleepless night. And if we are not careful, Africa will be engulfed across every place of Africa. In Uganda, you can hear a regime change signals. The opposition teaming up, now coming together saying, we have had enough for a long time, and this is the time for us to unite to take on His Excellency President Museveni and win an election. These are the things that Africa must be prepared for. Africa needs to know that the longer we stay without progressive steps towards the democratization of our states, the worse we become, and the faster the wave of regime change will arrive in our countries. I land the mic.
Very well, thank you. So initially, Wanda had brought up the issue of democratization in Africa and how the democracy we have in the continent is not an African democracy, but Wanda, and what Doc has already added there, we have accepted this Western democracy, have we not?
The leaders have, some quarters of the citizens have, but we have a good percentage of Africans that have not, and especially those who tend to vote in the leaders that are perceived as the opposition leaders. A good number of them don't believe in the Western democracies.
So there's a question I'd posed before Doc came in, and that is as much as there are indeed factors to do with external interference and sponsored regime change from the external world that we know about, but also we do have internal regime change, and a lot of times it is built upon when a politician, say, I give an example of the Guinean former president now who was ousted, Alpha Conde, who decided to have a constitutional coup and ran for a third term against he led a constitutional change to allow him to run for a third term. And that, after a while, I think was one of the key things that led to protests that saw him being ousted by the military. So would you look at a political survivor and how some of our leaders in this continent use it as a means to welcome an internal regime change? And once an internal regime change is in the offing, now we see other external powers taking advantage of that. How would you look at that?
I think, is it Wanda?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
You're very right, Miriam, that we have internal issues that tend to affect how we run our affairs and easily give a chance to the Western world to take advantage of the weaknesses within our nations, within the continent, then easily walk in to do whatever they want to do. And in most of most cases, the internal conflicts or the internal issues that affect the regime changes that leads to some leaders wanting to hold on a position for so long is based on the need to revenge and the scarcity of resources in Africa. That the scarcity of resources in Africa that has affected, that probably at times lead to us being qualified, rather qualifying to be defined as the poorest in the world, as in one way or the other entered into the heads of our leaders, that when leaders get into position, they feel like if I walk out from this position, then I'm letting go of the riches. And therefore, they'll want to get hold of the riches, remain with these riches, and in one way or the other prepare for their generation, for their bloodline, to always be within the same channel of these riches. The other problem that leads to all this is the ethnicity of tribalism in Africa, that is still tied to the scarcity of resources or the economic stability of the continent. And it's quite obvious and quite common. It's a pattern or it is a trend that even during campaigns, you will always find the coalition being formed in line with ethnicity, and the debate will always be, we will give you votes in return of these. And the returns are always economic based. That the returns will always be, you will build for us this, you will give us this kind of job opportunities. Our people will be entitled to 1 or 2, 3 tenders. And therefore, in so doing, our leaders who always want to cling on these positions or who will want to win elections, they'll always want to align with themselves with, in the sense that they end up making mistakes and they end up showing the world that we are only interested in positions, and this position is based on we want to have our pockets full. So the Western world do not look at it in that, in that sense or in that aspect. To them, they view it with a longer picture, a broader picture. That fine, let us plant this person there. After all, it's just a bloodline. It's just an individual, some few people. Then we now exploit the entire nation or the entire region. Miriam.
Okay. All right. Doc, you wanted to say something? Okay. And even as we wait for as we wait for Doc to come, there's something called political marketplace. Doc, if you can hear me. Doc, yeah, good afternoon. There's something,
Yes.
there's something called political marketplace where the nature of our politics has become very transactional, and it's based on loyalty and alliances of the people who are meant to benefit. It has become very transactional in nature, and in this regard we find that a section of a community or a people feel neglected and feel that they're not benefiting from this transactional nature of our politics. Would you say this is perhaps one of the also driving factors when it comes to the regime change, the political marketplace?
Yes. Look at the loyalty fees that we pay the same people who have taken our gold. How much do they pay us? Then look at the transaction, the commercial setup of political science in Africa today. We are simply mortgaging these states. We are mortgaging our government. We come and say this is what we want, instead of us saying this is what we have. Why don't we go and borrow upon what we have? If you have copper, you go and say, I have copper, and upon this copper, when do you want to dig this copper and how long? 10 years. Okay, by 10 years, you should dig and remove everything, leave us to do what we want with the money. Those are the type of terms that we should use, to avoid this marketplace politics where loyalty is becoming normal, that can create a wave of regime change. If you are going to employ only your relatives, your friends, your cartels, in any African country, I saw there is a president who has, from his village, the police inspector general is from his village. The chairman, the director of Botswana Revenue Authority is from his village. The army commander is from his village. Some of the prison officer is from the village. So if you go to their village, it is the most shining village at night. If you fly over by, you see the lights everywhere. While the other half of Botswana is only animals and very bit of the people in Gaborone where their lights are. So look at such a president in Africa appointing his own village mates. Leave alone district village mates. So such a place is bound to be a very big situation that could explode. In the question of elections, I have been very adamant on the African continent and I said, if I ever get near power, the first thing in Africa is to abolish elections, Miriam. Let's be very honest. Because people don't know what elections are in Africa. They don't know the difference between democracy and elections. And elections in Africa, we don't conduct them properly. And then they create us a wave of regime change. You saw the Somalia. How many years did Somalia postpone a mere selection of the president? Almost 2 years. 2 years. And if the president there had not become very tough and the opposition started saying, no, enough is enough, we have had enough, there could have been a very big water. That is what, those are the areas that we should keep watch, look at and know that as long as those areas are having a problem, there is always chaos that will happen.
And just
so commercialism,
yeah,
commercial enterprises, marketplaces, elections are determining a commercial interest can explode into a wave of regime change. We are doing too much transactional politics. The politics of transactions on African continent is too much. Look at what the clip you showed. Did you show the clip of President Museveni yesterday? Stephen, you have the clip of His Excellency. There's a clip that I had wanted you to show. Did we see it? Stephen, you have that clip. Bring in that clip first. The one I sent you this morning.
As they look for that, Doc, there's something that you brought up, and Wanda also spoke on it. There's a question I asked while you had not fully joined us, and that is when we look at the rise of multi-party democracy here in the continent and the democratization process has been going on well, and we've seen democratic institutions increase in the continent. But also the upside of that, which is very
what type of democratization?
in whichever form, but we've seen this. We've seen we look like it's
can we be candid and give them a name? Pseudo democratic institutions.
Okay. But even
there's no democratic institution in Africa. Show me one.
But we've
Show
seen
me.
but we've seen an
No,
increase.
no, show me in Kenya what is democratic. Party is democratic. Show me one party in your country which is democratic. Which one?
Well, they say we are much better compared to some other countries.
No,
that is debatable.
Just say there's pseudo democratic institutions. They pretend to be democratic.
All right.
But I can 100% tell you the Labour Party in the United Kingdom is democratic. They select a man called Matsanga to be a delegate who was born in Mount Elgon in the 50s. He has come to UK. He's a delegate for the Labour Party. That's democratic. And I go to the Labour Party National Executive Council. I speak with my English, the Ugandan accent, and I say, no, the National Health Service, there are so many queues in my hospital, in Mayday Hospital in Croydon, which falls under Croydon East constituency, which is in Surrey. Therefore, I need these queues to be shortened. As a Labour Party, when we take power, we must give priority to national health service. That's democracy. That is democracy, my dear sister. But these parties in Africa are manned by the owner.
Yeah, it is the politics of the marketplace, the one we were just talking about.
Yeah, the politics of market. You tell me whether anybody can go to Uganda and tell President Museveni that I am now today dismantling the national resistance movement structure.
They're still resisting.
And I want to bring in 5 presidents, rotational. See how they will even remove you from that conference. You will be walking on your head until you reach outside in your car. Not instead of walking on feet. Go South Sudan is gearing out for elections. The SPLM, which is the mother party, kicked out Riek Machar. They said you left. You haven't come back. Is that democracy?
But
democratic
that is democracy. He left. He went and formed SPLM-IO, SPLM in opposition. So you can't be in 2 parties, Dr. If you've left, you've left. Yeah.
But as the delegates conference started to expel him.
They did actually about a few weeks
So
ago.
if the delegates conference has started to expel him, look at that. Is that not forming another wave of regime change?
That is democracy, Doc. But my question was, that is democracy.
Let's go. Let's give another example. Then you come to summit up.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ethiopia. My friend, good friend, younger man called Dr. Abiy Ahmed is young in age because I've seen so many granaries that I've eaten across to reach where I am. At least over 60 decades of 10. 6 over. I've eaten granaries. Nimekula unga. Nimekula millet. Nimekula chapati mingi. I'm here. So when you look at Dr. Abiy Ahmed, he saw the chance of elections. He started eliminating some people out of the party. Yet the other gentleman resigned and said, take over. He came for him, he singled out, said, these guys have not got to be in the party. He held an election endorsed by Obasanjo and African Union. You saw what regime change wave took place. It has just been silenced through the efforts of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Obasanjo and AU and IGAD and other states and the Italian government that I thank so much, the Italian government for the good work that they have done in making sure that Ethiopia stabilizes. A wave of regime change. Can we move on to another place? I show you, then you can come and tell me. In Tanzania, for example, Mama Samia Suluhu, when he took over power from after the death of my great friend John Pombe Magufuli, a very good patriot who went down, may God bless his soul in peace, a great friend of mine. Mama Suluhu has changed the politics to avoid a wave of regime change. She has now pardoned everybody, lifted the ban on political activities, and told CCM that you must also begin to make sure that the whole place is full of energy. That you must cultivate and compete along with and against all the type of people who are taking place. You see? You see that? That's a regime change. A wave. She had to stop a regime change because it was coming. It was coming. So Lady Miriam, when you tell me there is democratization of the states in Africa, which democratization are you talking about, brother?
But
my sister?
Doc, we've seen that those kinds of institutions increase here in the continent, however form they take or whatever the camouflage to act as if they represent the actual democracy. And I think Wanda earlier had argued that this democracy that we are grappling with, we were just given, so it is not in the context of the African democracy. So I'd like Wanda to perhaps expound on what African democracy should look like, and can it serve all African states? As we know, the context of different states is different, and how we approach the issue of democracy. But even as we see these democratic institutions increase across Africa, we're also seeing more countries become vulnerable to military takeovers and what will be considered autocratic powers. So there's a question I'd asked Wanda earlier, and perhaps I'll pose it to you: are we in a phase where we are having a democratic backsliding?
Yes, it is going to be huge in 2023. 9 countries in Africa, out of 9, 4 will have violence after elections. I'm not a prophet of doom, but I'm telling you the truth. Sorry. If you want to kill me, but I've said the truth. So go and hang. That election, violence is coming. Don't tell me Zimbabwe is going to see a smooth transition. No, honestly, speak to me. There are 9 countries in Africa where elections are going to be conducted. The one of Nigeria is going to end up in massive irregularities, even banning some of the ballot papers, boxes. They are going to be banned.
They're already banning,
especially in the southeast.
That is already
there
happening.
There will be violence. Next month, on 25th of February, Mr. Buhari has left the country autopilot. There will be violence, there will be killings by the Boko Haram in the Madiguri areas. That's
But Doc, they've already started, there has been a target on electoral offices and electoral materials already, so I think that is expected to continue.
Let's move on. Another one. Check. You have a list there. Tell me. And then you tell me Matsanga is telling a lie. Those are 2. Bring another one. Democratic Republic of Congo. Isn't it going for elections this year?
December.
Tell me that that election in Congo is not going to be violent.
It's likely to, because they've had a history of electoral violence every election period that even necessitated Kabila to postpone elections by 2 years the other time. So that is expected.
Yeah!
But Doc, that is expected. We can judge from the previous happenings that
It's
might
not
happen.
judging.
Yeah.
William, I've specifically said before.
Yeah.
Name another one. There are 9 countries. Out of 9, 4 countries
23.
are going.
There are actually 23 countries, although others are parliamentary, and but there are about 23 countries that I think will have the elections this year. A few of them presidential, others parliamentary, and other positions. But yeah.
Whichever, call it. There's another one. There's another country. Mention them for me. We have mentioned Nigeria. We have mentioned DRC Congo. We have mentioned DRC Congo, Zimbabwe, Nigeria,
Benin.
and
Benin.
So you tell me that they will in Benin it will end in a military coup? I'm sorry to say to you now.
So Benin, they'll be having their National Assembly elections in June, and then Central Africa Republic will also have their local elections, I think, this month.
Now you tell me in the Central African Republic you have elections where, Miriam? Let's not tell lies.
The local government.
Local where? Central African Republic is governed in Banjul. The rest of the swabs, the political swabs, the geographical swabs of Central African Republic are governed by the rebels.
Gabon is also going for its presidential, legislative, and local elections. That's another.
The man limping towards the ballot.
So we expect
President of Gabon, the son of my great.
Is it Ali Bongo? He will win that.
Omar Bongo.
Ali Bongo is the president now.
The son of Omar Bongo.
Yes.
Who is now Ali Bongo. Very sick, frail, but he's on his way to Damascus. And he's still going for election. Telling me, Gabon, the country that I was looking for, you have said. 4 countries in Africa. Gabon, remember, there is a very dangerous man there in Gabon who is not Ali Bongo, but Jean Ping. Jean Ping, the leader of opposition, who was the chairperson of African Union, the man who killed Muammar Gaddafi, the man who delayed the plane of 5 African presidents in Bamako while the French came to destroy Libya. Hey! Miriam, tell me, he's there. Now you tell me that election. The other time when they had the elections in Rwanda, do you know what they burned down? The Supreme Court and the National Assembly. They were burned down to ashes. They killed 200 people. 200 people were killed. But because the French have influence in Gabon, nobody was taken to the ICC.
True.
In Kenya, they came to take Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto until Matsanga came to check their policy. Kwenda,
we took ourselves.
I came to check the policy in Kenya.
We took ourselves.
Yeah, no. I checked the French policy in Kenya. What the fucking hell? I did. And I'm happy. I'm sorry I defeated the French policy of coming to pick African leaders, taking them to the Hague, yet you cannot take Ali Bongo and Xi Jinping for having slaughtered 300 Gabonese.
Don't be vague, let's go to the Hague. That's what
Miriam,
we decided.
I feel very upset.
Yeah. In our case, we took ourselves there, Doc.
We took ourselves with the French people paying Kofi Annan to steal an envelope. We bet if I start writing this history, some people will go, there are people, I will keep quiet for the sake of Africa.
All right.
But if I write the history of how the French have maneuvered to conquer, to destroy Africa through ICC, what is the war in Congo doing? What is the war in Congo doing if you say there is no wave of regime change? Hallelujah. Anybody there? Are you with me? What's the war in Congo doing? Why do you take Bosco Ntaganda and you leave some people there who kill people every day? Oh Lord, oh Lord. Africa, we are wasting resources. We are flying to go and kill this process. Rubbish.
All right. Okay. Liberia,
yes.
Liberia is also having.
I'm being honest. I have reached a point of telling the truth. And one of these days, this year 2023, wewe kama unataka kuja karibu na mimi, kuja kama uko prepared, itaambia wewe mambo until no blood becomes frozen. One day you have seen me on the platforms now. You have seen me on Twitter space. They have created, my Twitter space has been recognized now. Because it has got rules. It has same until Africa changes. It has zungumiza until Africa changes. I want a better Africa, a changed Africa. I don't want Gonya Gonya Africa. Gonya Gonya, Gonya Gonya. Muna when we have resources. Yeah, I will punch where possible. And I'm not going to give God. That guy there in AU, boss, quickly, fanya kazi uende quickly. I am on you. Mr. Muhammad Faki, every day I plot against you. Everything I do in the world, I plot against Mr. Muhammad Faki. That man from Chad who killed General Idris Deby. And he did not tell us, African Union, who are those who killed General Idris. And you just replaced General Idris Deby, a president of a nation who had won elections. And you kept quiet. And you tell me you are the chairperson of African Union. Kwenda huko. Rubbish.
Liberia is having its elections again this year, 10th October.
Oh.
Liberia. Libya.
Now look at that one.
Libya as well.
A president who spends 50 days outside his country spending the little money that could build a clinic. Tell me there's elections there. Which election?
Libya.
Why are you even angering me? Where will you hold the elections in Libya?
I know. Probably it will be
Ladies
postponed.
and the gentlemen listening to my clip, where will you hold elections in Libya?
So
Libya is divided by Mr. Muhammad Faki interests. He gets money payback from the oil that they are drilling from the Benghazi side. The French are taking illegal oil of Libya every day.
So they'll be having parliamentary and presidential elections.
So, parliamentary to go, which parliament?
Madagascar is also having the presidential elections. That's not too bad.
No, Miriam, please. You are trying me.
Mali.
To go parliamentary what in Libya? Which parliament will you sit? Will you the right leg sit in Benghazi and the left leg sit in Tripoli? Utafasuka katikati.
They'll figure it out, which they've not been able to do so. So I don't know how that is going to work out. Might not.
And the AU that forms policy. And the people of Kenya, those watching me, I am not against anybody. Jermaine, Nyerere is dead. Mugabe is dead. Obote is dead. Jomo Kenyatta is dead. Nkrumah is dead. Sekuture is dead. Gabriel Nas is dead. Haile Selassie is dead. Mandela is dead. Robert Mugabe is dead. Samora Machel is dead. Patrice Lumumba is dead. Amir Kabura is dead. Sankara is dead. Who should speak?
While you take a pause.
Who should speak? Nkurunziza in Burundi is dead. Now you tell me who should speak.
All right.
Hello?
Sierra Leone as well.
The people are gone. Siadi Barre is gone. I'm still counting for you. It is in the brain here. These are leaders who were speaking. Marachela is gone. Karume is gone. Have you seen Benabena is gone? Hosni Mubarak, who could stand and say no, is gone. Zenawi is gone. Show me any other person who could have spoken better. General Rawlings is gone. Are those not the men who used to speak? And they call it a spade, call the French that you are the ones causing problems. How did the war in Rwanda end abruptly? In the war in Mozambique? Miriam, you are an expert on Africa, tell me.
It has not ended.
Who was inhabiting Cape Delgado? Tuzungumza hapo. Who was inhabiting Cape Delgado? Yeah, I'm asking. How come that Cape Delgado had tall men, and yet in Mozambique, most of the people are not very tall? Where did these tall men come from? Mr. Chisano, when you gave refugee to people in 200,000 families, when you are the president, why don't you speak up? Allah? What happened to Cape Delgado? Who knew that there was oil in Cape Delgado? Who directed these guys, refugees, to go and settle in Cape Delgado? Me take off my glasses now. I'm in a battlefield. Niambie. Now here we are. Here we are. We are killing people in Bunagana, in DRC Congo. We are wasting more money for peace process when the actors are not sincere. Hey! You tell me why a country can move 10,000 troops to its border? For what, Miriam? I support Kenya. And I will always be out on the lookout. If you touch Kenya, you touch Zimbabwe, you touch Tanzania, you touch Britain where I am, and you touch my country called Uganda, you bring sanctions, stupid sanctions on Uganda, I will deal with you. I'm sorry. Yeah. If you go and malice Kenya abroad, I will deal with you. If you malice Uganda abroad and call for sanctions to go and destroy my people, I will deal with you like I dealt with Changarai. Morgan Changarai and that stupid Chamisa, stupid. Our stupid people. You go and call sanctions. You go and call Bazungu to come and kill you. Come, bring sanctions. Now today, they are running around that they want to do an election in yellow color, we shall win. What my fault? Have you seen the trouble of Africa? Who is funding Chamisa? George Soros and Johnny Carsons and African leaders. I'm doing your friendly policy. Don't worry. Don't hate me. At least for me, I can talk when ICC is coming for you. I will stand, Matsanga. I will speak. Some people cannot even make a sentence. Hey! Leo tuambiane watu tuambiane. Jaribu. People cannot make a sentence. In the international scene, they cannot stand and point out mistakes of an international quasi organization trying to pretend to be delivering justice when you cannot arrest Tony Blair for having destroyed Afghanistan and Iraq on a doctored evidence of which he came and admitted. Tell me, why should you arrest an African leader? Tell me. Leo mmechemuka. Leo mmechemuka mimi.
Let me ask.
And there are some malcontents who keep on talking Matsanga. But you haven't known me yet. I'm just giving you warning. What have I done wrong? I'm not calling for sanctions against Uganda. I will never call for sanctions against my own country for my people to die. There's no opposition in Uganda. They are malcontents of the same state that they grew in and manufactured and were the leaders who even helped to kill us, to detain us, to malign our names. Today I've spoken my mind. Then when a plate is removed from your plate, from the food, have you ever seen a person insulting a plate when the food is full? Miriam, I'm asking you. Eh? Show me one person in the world who finds food on a plate and insults the plate. But then put the plate in the sink. The man will say, the sink is very dirty. Those plates are very dirty. And that today I'm becoming too African, isn't it? Yeah. Miriam, show me one man in Africa, one president who insults the plate, but remove the plate. Show me one opposition leader in Africa who insults the plate when it has food. Yeah. All these guys cry after power has been removed from them. But when they are in power eating with the same regime, they don't see the dirty plate. Ladies and gentlemen, the wave of regime change is spreading, is moving, is going, is coming. In Brazil, who is spreading it? Colombia, Venezuela. If you look at the leader of Venezuela today on the streets of Caracas, you can even slap him and he falls down.
The U.S. has been using that regime change strategy in those countries.
Yes,
Southern
the U.S.
America.
went there with a regime change strategy in Caracas, hoping that they will overthrow President Maduro. Is he overthrown? Hello? New Africa presidents, watch space. You will be like a Savimbi. Haven't you seen Mr. Kagame crying now? He says, if you want to overthrow me, overthrow me. Oh my Lord! Oh my Lord! Until you overthrow me over my dead body. Now, why are you crying? When you were with them, you were not crying. You were not crying when you are with them. Now, today, His Excellency President Kagame is crying. I want to be, they are against me. I am not funding this. But if they touch Rwanda, if you touch Rwanda, you overthrow me over my dead body. Isn't it what he said? Rwanda.
But they have sustained
the people
Rwanda.
Of Rwanda.
They have sustained Rwanda.
Savimbi issue. Savimbi was used to mutilate Africans. Where is he? Show me one street in Africa which has been named after Savimbi. Johannes Savimbi. Johan Savimbi, yes. The man from Huambo. Ladies and gentlemen, the global trends. Matsanga global trends.
I also want to bring to our attention. We were looking at the countries. Yes, the countries, the ones that are going for the elections this year, and what really potentially might happen in these countries. We do have, of course, Mali is going for its local and House of Representatives and Senate elections this year. And Nigeria is going to its presidential elections, House of Representatives and Senate, and state assemblies and governors elections this year. Sierra Leone also is having its presidential, parliamentary, and local council elections this year. Somaliland, and we've seen how things are playing out there. They're going for their presidential elections. South Sudan was meant to, but I think they pushed theirs to next year. Sudan is having its presidential, Council of State, National Assemblies, state legislators, state governors, and local elections this year. So they're going for their presidential elections, and I think they have the date set for July. I don't know what kind of preparation is ongoing there, not so much. And also Zimbabwe is having its president, Senate, House of Assembly, and local elections this year. So it's a very busy calendar here. We'll have so much to talk about as we wait to see how some of these elections will play out. You're muted.
When you find me coming to my funeral, don't cry much. No, I used to speak the truth. That you are holding elections where? In South Sudan?
In Sudan.
In Sudan. Which Sudan? North.
South Sudan is next year, but that, until we see it, we can't even count that. But even in Sudan, there are no preparations.
Which Sudan? Sudan of General Duglo and General Burhan.
Apparently.
You are holding which elections? Under which
Presidential.
umbrella? Under which constitution?
They don't even have a constitution.
Tuachane. You know what? Let's not play with Africans,
they
please.
they suspended the
Which
constitution.
election are you holding in the South, in Sudan, in Khartoum? What elections can you hold? Which one? Whom will you elect to come to National Assembly? Under which constitution? We have not done any constitutional reforms. And if there are any reforms, you have even stopped people. Some people had called them that they were people of Bashir, never to take part. How can you, don't you expect a coup there, another one? One of the problems that Africa makes is to point fingers, and African opposition makes. And I want to teach my friends in Uganda, don't point fingers at President Museveni all the time and say, when we take power, you will see. He will not leave. He will not leave. Organize your parties democratically, peacefully, back and come with a majority into parliament and then defeat him.
We have experienced a technical hitch there. We apologize for that. Wanda, you've just been listening to us. Maybe you say something as we wait for Doc to fix his.
In fact, his last statement, he said something that I really resonate with. That there is always a bigger mistake that quite a number of opposition parties in Africa plays or commits. When you go in Uganda, Bobby Wine and his team want to unseat President Museveni, but in so doing, they want to pick a war with him. You cannot pick a fight with someone who is on the throne, someone whom you think is not okay, and you want to unseat that person by picking a conflict with the very person. This person knows that you want to punish him after you have taken over. And nobody wants to be punished after getting to such a position. Therefore, I'm so sure the opposition in Uganda will comfortably or not comfortably see General Muhoozi take over from his father. And he will take over not because probably he qualifies or either of them, but because the opposition do not know how to play politics in Uganda. Their politics is based on pointing fingers at Museveni, thinking that Museveni is bad. It could be, but that's not how you play politics when you want to take over from someone who is on the throne. Probably you can be hypocritical and act good, behave good, so that whoever is seated on the throne feels like you're now looking at them in the good way. Then they let you take over. But if you keep on thinking those persons are bad, then you tell them on the face they're bad. You go outside country, outside continent, you tell the world these persons are bad. They'll never give you the chance to lead. And the other thing when Doctor was analyzing the 2023, indeed, when you look at that list, the continent, the regional regroupings or the regional groups, the East Africa, SADC, ECOWAS, cut across, and the AU, they need to be very careful, because when you look at that list and the history of the very countries, it's not something that you sit down comfortably thinking that all is okay, of which a number of them have a history. And if the continent will be chaotic, then we'll have a whole calendar whose economy will be affected. Therefore, we'll be talking about hard economic times in 2023, because we will have the diaspora remittances going down. We will have the foreign direct investments going down, because every person will look at that list then we'll be looking at wars and chaos. So no foreign direct investment will come in. The diaspora remittances people will hold on what they have. Why should I send money at home when there is nothing going on, nothing positive going on there? Therefore, the regions should be very alert. The AU should be very alert in the sense that 2023 does not seem to be a very nice year insofar as the elections, social and security things are concerned, politics.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I don't know if you're able to conclude this subject for us. I think he's left. I had a bit of a technical hitch on his part. So I think that is where we should put a pin for right now. I think we've exhausted this topic, the issue of regime change, and a lot of some of these countries that we've looked at that are looking to have the elections this year. Those factors and those elements of regime change we might see play in a lot in how they conduct the elections and the voices that will be speaking during these elections and what happens after that. I want to thank you so much for your time. It's about 2 minutes to 1 p.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. Thank you, Wanda Wesonga, and of course, Dr. David Matsanga, who has suffered a bit of a technical hitch, but we thank him so much for his contribution on today's show. I'll see you later with more news from across the continent of Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Bye-bye for now.
Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy.